Picture a government press conference in Beijing, March 2016. Flags on the wall, name cards on the table, rows of journalists with their hands in the air. One of them gets the microphone, stands up, and asks the most powerful banker in China a single question. He wants to know whether the panda is going to eat the dim sum. And the banker does not laugh. He nods, leans into the mic, and answers, slowly, carefully, like a man who has thought long and hard about whether the panda is going to eat the dim sum. Because he has. That actually happened, and the banker wasn't joking. To see why a central banker is doing panda metaphors, you have to know one thing: the bond market, the serious trillion-dollar machinery governments and giant companies use to borrow money, has a secret zoo. A panda, a dim sum, a samurai, a bulldog, a kangaroo, a kimchi. Each name is a fact squeezed into a single cute word. Decode one, and the whole zoo turns into a map of when each country on Earth opened its financial doors to the world.
A samurai bond is what you call it when a foreign borrower, say an American company or the government of Mexico, comes to Tokyo and borrows Japanese yen from Japanese investors under Japanese rules. That's the whole thing. 3 facts in one word: whose money it is, yen, whose market you're standing in, Japan, and the fact that you, the borrower, are the outsider. A foreigner shows up to borrow the local currency, and the bond gets dressed in a local costume.
Once you see it, the rest fall into place. The same move in New York gets you a Yankee bond. London turns it into a bulldog. Sydney has its kangaroo. Toronto, its maple. And Spain, back in the peseta days before the euro, called its version the matador. Always the same recipe. An outsider borrowing the local currency on local turf, just dressed up in whatever the host country's famous for. So why would an American company fly all the way to Tokyo to borrow yen instead of just borrowing dollars at home? A few real reasons. Sometimes money is simply cheaper somewhere else. Japanese interest rates spent years stuck near zero, so borrowing yen cost almost nothing. Sometimes you go where the savings are. Japanese households sit on enormous piles of cash, and that cash is hunting for something safe to buy. And sometimes it's because you're already earning yen. That last one's the big one. Say a good chunk of your income already arrives in yen. You sell a lot in Japan. If you borrow dollars instead, you've quietly placed a bet. When the yen weakens against the dollar, that dollar debt gets harder to pay off out of your yen earnings. Borrow in the same currency you earn, and that whole risk just evaporates. So a samurai bond is a company shopping the entire planet for the cheapest, safest money it can find. And the best deal isn't always at home. And there's a system underneath the names. 3 dials. Who's borrowing, in what currency, and where. Stay in Japan for a second. A foreigner borrowing yen in Tokyo is a samurai. A foreigner who shows up in Tokyo to borrow dollars instead becomes something else, a shogun. And a Japanese company that leaves home to raise money abroad, that's a sushi bond. Same country, 3 different names, all set by which way you turn those dials. The name is really just a set of coordinates. Korea does the exact same thing. A foreigner borrowing Korean won inside Korea is an Arirang bond, named after the country's most famous folk song. But a bond sold in Korea in a foreign currency, usually dollars, gets a different name, the kimchi bond. Hang on to the kimchi. We'll come back to it. Those names are recording something specific. A country earns a spot in this zoo by doing one thing: opening its doors and saying out loud that the world can come do business here now. The samurai bond was born in 1970. Japan was sitting on a mountain of cash, cracked its markets open, and let the Asian Development Bank raise 6 billion yen on Japanese soil. That bond was Japan announcing it had arrived. Which brings us to the newest, most ambitious wing of the whole zoo, China. China wants its currency, the yuan, to be something the rest of the world saves in and borrows in. And it's been building that, one bond at a time. A foreigner borrowing yuan inside mainland China? That's a panda bond.
first sold in 2005. Same recipe as the samurai, just in yuan. But then China did something clever. It let its currency trade over in Hong Kong. The same yuan, only just outside the mainland's tight controls. And a yuan bond sold over there got its own name, the dim sum bond. And now you can walk back into that press conference, because the two of them had started to compete. The onshore panda against the offshore dim sum. The mainland against Hong Kong. So when that reporter asked whether the panda was going to eat the dim sum, what he really meant was, is Beijing's market about to swallow Hong Kong's? The banker's answer, more or less, relax. They're both young, there's room for both. Don't worry so much about who eats whom. When the most powerful banker in China is doing panda and dumpling metaphors on live TV, you know these cute names have climbed all the way to the top. Now the part where these animals show their teeth. Letting foreigners borrow your currency, or letting your own companies borrow foreign currency at home, moves real money across your borders. And that can shake your whole financial system. Remember the kimchi bond? Around 2011, Korea got nervous. Its companies were using kimchi bonds to load up on dollars, piling up short-term foreign debt. Exactly the kind of thing that turns a small wobble into a full-blown crisis. So Korea basically locked its own bond in a cage. And there it sat for 14 years. Until 2025, when Korea let it back out. By then, the problem had flipped. Koreans were pouring huge amounts of money overseas, tens of billions of dollars, into foreign stocks and crypto, and all of that was draining dollars out of the country and dragging the won down with it. Suddenly, dollars borrowed at home were useful again. The same bond Korea once caged to stop its companies gorging on dollars, it now reopened to pull dollars back in. It turns out that cute little kimchi bond is a valve on the country's entire supply of dollars, and Korea spent 14 years deciding which way to turn it. So line them all up, and the zoo becomes a timeline. There's the Yankee, from back when America was where the world came to borrow. The samurai marks Japan throwing its doors open in the 70s. And this century, the panda and the dim sum, China making its move. Each animal is a moment some country opened its doors to the rest of the world. The kimchi is the one that runs backwards. Locked in its cage for 14 years, it marks the moment a country decided to shut those doors again. So that's why the bond market sounds like a zoo. Finance is the one industry where the inventors and the marketers sit at the same desk, and these names are what you get. The cute costume is doing a job. It makes a foreign bond feel local, familiar, friendly. But underneath every costume is the same plain fact. Somebody's money just crossed a border. So next time one turns up in a headline, a panda, a samurai, a kimchi, look past the cartoon. Each one is a passport stamp. The day a country opened its doors and let the world's money in. Which is exactly why, in that room in Beijing, nobody laughed.